Welcome, everybody. The Agent and the Fan podcast. I'm Chris Leible. I'm here with my partner, Lou Columna. Lou, how you doing, pal?
I'm good, man. I'm good, man. It's fun time of season. Baseball's in full swing, NBA playoffs. So it's pretty good. And OTAs. So I'm getting a little bit of everything until, baseball takes over in August.
Yeah, it's always a good time of the year. Um, we had we got a lot of action going on in baseball. Like you said, the OTAs for football. We're getting to see some of the new faces in new places, which
Yes,
is
sir.
always fun and cool, and to see the guys in their new uniforms and numbers and all that stuff. And then the NBA playoffs is something we have to talk about because that's been real interesting and a lot of fun. Uh, I've been enjoying that as well, and I've also been enjoying the college baseball season, and we're coming up to the postseason there. So, or actually, it's actually already underway. So, a lot of stuff cooking.
It definitely so. One of the things I really wanted to talk about it. This came actually to me a couple of days ago. Just watching the news, and I was like, who better else to kind of talk about this than you? And that is the landscape of the amateur athlete in college getting paid, all these deals that these kids are making, and really how that affects the agent and what's the agent's play in all of this.
Yeah, so obviously the world has changed quite a bit over the last several months, and it's very interesting, and it definitely changes the landscape quite a bit as far as the NIL deals. NIL, for those who don't know, is name, image, likeness, um, and it's basically a way for amateur athletes or college athletes, NCAA athletes, to make money off the field, which has always been an issue and never been really addressed. So for me, it's a great thing. Number one for these kids because it's not really, there's a ton of money in college sports, and who is getting the money? Well, the institutions are, and the NCAA is, but what about the kids who are putting their bodies and their, on the line? Yes, they're getting scholarships, and I think you can make that argument, of course, and that's, of course, the reason, why they're in school. But for a lot of these kids, and you can go back to the old days, of, just certain guys of getting hurt, not never, in college and never getting to where they were supposed to go and never making a dime out of it. So for these guys to be able to make some money, and in all honesty, the rules of the NCAA were pretty archaic and not fair to these kids. These kids are bringing money into the school. They have fame and notoriety, and people can't walk around with their t-shirt on, or you can't purchase a t-shirt from the school or from
Mhm.
um with somebody's name on it if you want to support the school.
For sure.
Obviously, I'm a big college fan, with the U, but it's, if I want to wear a shirt of one of my favorite players over through the years, it wasn't something you could even get. You'd have to
Yeah,
make it up your own, and even then, it wasn't even really allowed. So to be able to do that is great. The fact that money goes to the athletes' pockets is great. The fact that they can make money by signing autographs, or um, you know, on social media by posting for certain products or whatever it
yeah.
um,
I mean, the
is
history.
amazing. I think it's a
Yeah,
beautiful thing, because you had through the years. I mean, you have these 300-pound linemen, football players who were busting their butts and working basically two jobs because they're student athletes, and they're in the classroom, and then they're also on the
yeah,
field every day practicing and working their butts off. And they can't even, they get a meal card, and how are they going to feed themselves or support, stay
sure.
healthy and all those things and be able to eat when they want to eat, and they couldn't even afford a pizza or something. And if
Yeah,
they, guys, as recently as a few years ago, guys getting busted, and it's actually still kind of going on a little bit, you know, getting a hotel room from a prospective advisor, from an advisor or
a
something like that, who's
booster.
trying to help them with their future.
Yeah,
$250, and somebody's suspended for, a $250 for one night in a hotel, and they're suspended for months from playing, that's nonsense. I mean,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it's
Um,
crazy. I mean, we can go back to the Fab 4 days when they talked about, like, they were selling out arena, stadiums with
mhm.
their players and everything else. And I think Chris Webber mentioned one time, like, he saw these jerseys with his number on it, and he's like having a struggle to buy McDonald's,
Exactly.
and feed himself.
No, it's no good, and, I think but, but it is changing the landscape because it's opening a lot of doors now for these guys, but you're also now seeing it as kind of being, um, schools are kind of getting around some of the rules because the schools you know, aren't allowed to offer them, but they might have alumni who are offering things, and
Yeah,
you're seeing things all around the country that are fueling transfers, and the transfer portal is something that's huge right now in
huge
every
now.
college sport, where guys are tearing it up maybe at a mid-major, and then all of a sudden they open the eyes of a big school, and all of a sudden they're dumping their school and going somewhere else. And I mean, to me, it's kind of reflective of professional sports. So
Yeah,
I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, because they're talking about maybe kind of reeling it in a little bit, because it's kind of the Wild West right now. But and you're seeing a lot of agents trying to find deals and offering things to these kids, and in exchange to be able to represent them, and which has always gone on in baseball, which is where
yeah,
I work. So, is there that big of a difference if there's I mean, for example, University of Michigan football player who's gaining notoriety on the field on Saturday afternoons when they're playing Ohio State, who's getting whatever it is, a car, because he's got to deal with a dealership from an alumni from the University of Michigan, let's just say. But is that any different from a baseball agent buying buying a car for a 17-year-old Dominican kid who's tearing
yeah,
up a ball, who looks like they're going to be the next big thing in MLB,
yeah.
one day, and maybe worth a $300 million contract?
Yeah, I want to get to the agent part of it in a second, but something also just popped into my head, and that is, with these athletes, forget about, like, we're talking basketball here, right? Like Bronny's getting like $7 million. LeBron James' son, with all these deals. But I'm also thinking, and maybe I'm wrong. A lot of these athletes that maybe are not as good, right away. They maybe need 2 or 3 years in college, but they're making enough money where they don't have to sacrifice themselves to the draft possibly and go
Correct.
low in the draft. Like, hey,
Well,
listen, I'm making 200,000,
100%.
300,000. I can stay in college making great money, and then boost my stock. Maybe my junior year I come
And
out,
also, yes, and mature, and you're seeing that. I think going to see that a lot in the basketball draft.
and I think that's a
You're
good
already
thing, by
seeing
the way.
guys who are testing the water. They're allowed to do that. They're allowed to test the market and test and see if they have any stock in the NBA, and then they go back to the school, because if they feel like they're going to be a late round pick, or maybe even not even drafted at all, they're going to make more money from their NIL deals in college. They might make, there are guys making 4, 5, 6, 7, $800,000 a year on an NIL deal. You're not going to
Mhm.
make that in the NBA G League.
Exactly,
So,
exactly.
but in all fairness, if a kid 5 years ago, even 5 years ago, or in the recent history, decided, hey, let me take a shot at the NBA draft. I don't want to go to school anymore. School's not for me. I want to do it. They don't get drafted. Nobody's interested in them. They go to the D League, or they go to Europe, and they're making small sums of money. Their career is kind of over, and they never even
Yeah,
got a fair chance, and they never even physically matured, because that's the one thing. When you're taking a pick and I say this all the time, and I think about it all the time, when you're taking a pick in the NFL draft, you're generally picking a 21 or 22-year-old man, right? Young man, but they're 21 or 22 years old. If you're in the baseball draft, there's going to baseball drafts coming up soon. It's right around the corner. And there are going to be plenty of teams, and probably half the teams in the first round will take high school kids who were 17 and 18 years old. That's a big difference. A 17 or 18-year-old. Look, at when they're 30 and 33, it's not gonna be a big difference. But when you're 17 and you're 20, or you're 21, or whatever it
mhm,
is, that's a
that's
huge
a
difference in
difference.
physical maturity. that's why a lot of these kids, they're not right on, they're not necessarily always right on these kids.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see a kid who's just like, oh my God, this kid's got potential. And then he never does anything after that. And, never gets better.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that gives you those extra years to mature and potentially get better. And also just under those circumstances, some of these players don't have a lot of experience. That's why we saw this in the NFL. Brock Purdy, he was a veteran quarterback who played a lot of, big time football. So when he got to the 49ers this year and somehow ended up being their starter, he thrived because he had a lot of snaps under
A
his
lot of
belt
reps.
and
Yeah.
against good competition. Whereas some of these other kids, you go to school for 1 year, 2 years, I'm going to the draft, they don't have that. And that's a big factor a lot of the times.
Yeah. So going back to the agent aspect of all of this, just to put a bow tie on this,
Mhm.
what what is a potential agent's role now in the landscape of all of this? Like,
Well, again, baseball is a little different I'm a baseball agent. In baseball, college baseball is not a huge or high school baseball especially, they're not huge money making sports, and they're certainly not big TV sports. Now, it's a niche thing. I love it. I watch all the games. I watch all the Miami games, for example. But it's a niche thing, and it's not something that captures the public eye. Whereas the NCAA tournament, or when you turn on a Duke North Carolina game, you got a lot of people watching that, a lot of people keeping an eye on it. Same thing for Ohio State, Michigan, or USC, UCLA, or whoever it is, Notre Dame and
Miami, Florida State.
yeah, Miami, Florida State. I won't go back to Miami, but whatever it is, like those are huge games that are getting huge TV audience and things like that. But at the end of the day, yeah, the NILs, these guys are gonna it's gonna be similar to baseball or any other sport or any other level of athlete, where that's a factor now in choosing your agent and expecting to get what you deserve. So if those deals are there, if you're the starting tailback at Oklahoma, let's just say, and you should be, you're going to be a top pick coming up, and that Bijan Robinson at Texas, one of your rival schools, has a big NIL deal with whatever he has an NIL deal with, he's going to be looking at his guy going, well, Bijan's got this. What am I getting? So agents are going to have to, not gonna, are having to pick up their game and come through with these deals. And also, it's not only it's a good thing for an agent. It'll help solidify your client and lock him in, and
And also, I'm
generally speaking.
assuming build a
What's that?
relationship with a brand, right? Like, if you got
Hmm.
your guy on a deal with, brand X,
Yeah.
that's going to follow him into the NFL or the NBA.
Of course, yeah, that could be something. Yeah, especially when you're talking about some of these guys that look like they're potential, the Heisman winner, guy like that, who then people is going to be a top draft pick, and who will just keep going on and on and on. Trevor Lawrence would be a recent, example of it, or whatever, where, so they'll lock these guys into these deals and get them going, and yeah, you said build relationships that could last a lifetime, and for a lot of these guys, if it's the right company that makes sense, and you see them all around.
Yeah,
So
without question, without question. I wanted to get into the NBA playoffs, just to
yeah,
uh, move forward on this. Man, I know you and I agree on this. Not agree, but like we're fans of both Denver, and I was pulling for them. I didn't expect it. I mean, honestly, I didn't think it was going to go 7. I thought it was going to go 6. I mean, it is LeBron. He can carry a team. But I did feel this was the first year where I was like, not that listen, he's LeBron, but that he showed his age, right? And LeBron 10 years ago with this team can carry that team to the finals as he did for 10 years in a row, right? Um, this was like the first year that I was like, wow, like, yeah, like you can see he's tired. and Jokic, and Jamal Murray with Denver. I mean, dynamic duo. They when they won game 2, I was like, wow, okay, I think this could be a sweep. I really think this could be a sweep.
No, I felt the same way. I thought Denver obviously had a great year. Lakers up and down year for sure. Obviously, if LeBron James on your team, whether he's 21 or 38, he's still going to be the center piece and the focal point of your team. LeBron, we saw it in the final game in the sweep, but I mean, LeBron had a huge game. He had 40 points and he almost had a triple double, and the guy did everything he could do. I just think the team wasn't as good, and they just ran into a buzzsaw in Denver. He said Denver's a feel good story. I'd love to see them take it all the way. For a number of reasons, but I feel like you said, Jokic is a tremendous player. He's also seems like a real character. Funny, he's
Yeah.
kind of funny and has a good sense of humor and things like that. But the guy, I mean, you can't deny
I mean,
the numbers the guy
yeah.
puts up every night. I mean, he's always a threat for a triple double himself. I mean, he'll put up crazy numbers. He had, I think he had a triple double in the first half of one of the games. I
Yeah,
mean,
I was like, he's a 2-time MVP playing in obscurity, right? Like,
yeah,
uh,
yeah, and he's also just it's just the character. Some of the pictures have gone viral of pictures of him as a kid where he's
yeah,
just kind of, you look at it and you're just like, how is this guy the best player in the NBA or whatever? You could obviously arguably
yeah.
the best player in the NBA, but I mean, you could definitely make a case for it, and he's just tremendous. Murray, who obviously is a super talent, has been kind of up and down, was hurt.
I was gonna say
But
he fought these injuries early on, and
yeah, but this guy has been absolutely lights out in the postseason. Really, carried the team on his back, and you know, and a cast of some other players who have just pitched in. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that Bruce Brown has been amazing. And I'm not just saying that because he's a Miami Hurricane and he's our guy, but Bruce Brown has been unbelievable because Bruce Brown he's just like a jack of all trades. He's a Swiss Army knife. He can do anything you want on the basketball court. He's a superior defender. He's scoring. He's making plays. He's dishing the ball out. He's getting key rebounds. The guy's been everywhere for the Nuggets. He's been a huge pickup. I really think I said it right away. The Nets made a huge mistake letting him go. And here he is in the NBA Finals. He went against Lonnie Walker, my other guy. And, Lonnie, really didn't get enough minutes. And Lakers maybe could have done better if they would have given him more minutes, Coach Darvin Ham. But Bruce Brown, Brandon Malone has been great. He's got a real interesting staff of coaches there with bunch of sons of. He's a son of a former coach,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then Rick Adelman and Popeye Jones is on the staff, and it's a great staff, and it's just a great story for them. So the West is very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing Denver in the finals, but that brings us to the East, which has been fascinating too, because
Yeah.
here we are, and as we're speaking right now, the Celtics are hanging on by a thread, and it's fascinating to see because the Celtics are a high seed, and the Heat are not. But you've got to give this guy Spoelstra. This guy is unbelievable.
You
He
gotta give
is
him all
a
the credit.
great coach. He's done it year after year after year. He is spectacular. Whether people give him credit for it or not, I don't know if he gets enough credit for what he has done and what he is still doing.
I
And Pat
agree.
Riley
I was
always seems to put the pieces together to the puzzle.
I was gonna say, you know, real quietly, Pat Riley, every couple of years, he gets these guys like they're just some guys. He's like a Bill Belichick. He knows talent because
Yep.
you
Yes.
look at that,
That's right.
that team, aside from Butler, you know, you have all these guys undrafted or second round pick or free agent,
Mhm.
DFA, what have you. Pat Riley, in my opinion, was one of the biggest losses to the Knicks.
Yeah.
That you can still feel, right? Because we haven't replaced them,
Nope.
right? We haven't.
Yep.
We've done well, we've done okay, of late, but like his brain is still intact. His niche for finding talented players is amazing. You know, uh, listen, Jimmy Butler played with a couple of teams, so it wasn't like, Jimmy Butler's a superstar and you know everybody wanted him, and like he's bounced around a couple of teams.
No, you're right. I mean, he found the right guy and he stepped up and taken that role and become a superstar.
Exactly, and that
And
and
Pat
that to
Riley's
me
the
is
reason for it.
is going to
But
be a fascinating part of the finals, right? It's not a sexy finals. Let's be honest. Like,
well, let's
I mean,
say it's
we're
the
assuming
Celtics.
Miami's making it, right?
It's
Because
not over yet, but the Celtics got a lot of talent. And you never know what could happen. But it will be an interesting finals. But I just want to get back to Pat Riley. You want to talk about success stories? Great college player and great college career at Kentucky as a player. Good NBA player. Spectacular, obviously, NBA coach. And then he's, a spectacular executive. The guy is just, he can't, talk
he's what
about all I do is win. I mean,
he's
that's
what
Pat
Phil
Riley.
Jackson wanted to be.
Yeah. He's what everybody wants to be. Pat Riley is just the best of the best.
You
But
can,
what
I
else can
mean,
you
listen.
say?
He, Aside from Bill Belichick, sustained, sustained.
Excellence.
It,
Sustained
it, it,
excellence.
it's amazing. It's amazing. But listen, I think Miami's going to make it. I mean, unless Boston pulls a miracle and
You
does
never know in
and
this
does
game.
another Boston 2.0.
Mhm.
I wouldn't technically, I wouldn't mind that. So we can get the Yankee thing out of there. But um, Boston's a talented team. I really, I don't want to say gave up, but I really felt that like game two, like there was just something missing in them. You know, I just didn't see that energy. Right?
Yeah.
That's just me. I mean, listen, they're down three
They've
one
definitely looked off in this series, the Celtics, and
because
I
they
think
have such
it's
a talented squad.
yeah, they got a lot of ballers on that team, and um, but the Heat, you just got to give it to them. And like I said, on the court, man, Spoelstra, this guy is just. He's a hell of a coach, man. He's just a great, great coach, and he always has his team ready to play.
Yeah, and again, under the radar, doesn't get the credit he deserves, right?
100%.
Now you're seeing him get a little bit more credit because, like, wow, look at this team. But it was always like, oh, he had LeBron and he had he had D Wade, and so now you're like, no, this guy can coach. There's a reason
Correct.
why Pat Riley. We're talking about talent and recognizing talent.
Yep.
Pat Riley saw something in him, right? And he's
Yeah.
proven Pat Riley right, which is you got
Time
to give him all the credit in
times
the
a
world.
million. 100%.
So this is going to be an interesting finals. I still pick, again, assuming it's Miami, I still pick Denver because I think that dynamic duo of Murray and Jokic is just insane, and their bench is deep. That
They
Porter,
haven't used that many guys, but whoever's played has done well.
yeah, Porter hitting those clutch threes. It's not going to be a sexy finals, but you can't have it every year, right? It'll be interesting to see what the ratings are, though. Because you got to wait. I mean, Jesus, like 9 days for the
Yeah,
game.
yeah,
That's
yeah. They stretch it. They certainly stretch it out, but well, it'll be interesting to see
yeah.
how it plays out. But
No, I agree. But moving on to MLB, season's kind of in full swing. You kind of get a sense. It's we're entering June, and I think the the teams that are good, you kind of like, okay, they're gonna sustain that, right? Like the Baltimores of the world, the Texas Rangers of the world,
mm,
who are really stepping it up. I mean, Baltimore's for real. They've drafted. I mean, they've sucked, so they've drafted high, but they've hit on those draft picks, right? A lot of teams, the Pirates haven't hit. These guys have
mhm.
hit on their picks, and they're seeing that build up,
Mhm.
which is, I think, for American League East fan, I think it's good. I want, we always talk Yankees Red Sox, but the Yankees Orioles of the '70s was like a crazy rivalry. You
Yeah,
know,
I mean, yeah, it's funny. The Orioles are a weird organization in that, um, yes, they've struggled over the last bunch of years, but their history has been really strong going back to the
strong.
60s when they started. They've always been stacked, loaded teams. They've always, you know, um, played well. Obviously, way back in the day, Earl Weaver was a great manager, and they always had, Frank Robinson, Brooks Robinson, led the way for a long time for a long time, and then it kind of handed over to the Cal Ripken, Eddie Murray teams, and those teams are great. And obviously, always had good pitching. And Jim Palmer probably pitched for 20 plus years. It's funny, he's another name like of the old days of pitchers where you go back and you talk about Seaver and Carlton and those guys.
And you
Jim
forget about
Palmer's
Palmer.
right with those guys,
Yeah, you forget about him.
and people forget about him, but this guy's talk about an icon, a true hero, in Baltimore, broadcaster, done it all, just a legendary career from top to bottom,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, they've had a great history. They had great teams in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. 2000 have been tougher on them, but yeah, you're right. It's a good point by you. They've had some bad teams, but they've hit on their draft picks and the Rushmans and Mullins and those types of
Henderson,
guys. What's that?
Gunnar Henderson.
Henderson and all these guys are now in the forefront and stepping up, and you could see they're going in the right direction now, and it seems like their front office is doing a great job too of making some good moves and key pickups and things like that. So yeah, the Orioles are a team to watch for sure in a tough division where you have obviously always have the Red Sox and Yankees, and then of course the Rays.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just think it's just, I mean, the NL the AL is stacked. The AL East is stacked, which is great. I think for baseball, because these are great
Hmm.
baseball towns as well, right? Baltimore's a great baseball town. Boston,
Yeah.
New York, not so much Tampa, but still, uh, the Texas Rangers again, great record. I mean, Evaldi's, very quietly is having a great season, right?
Yep.
You don't think of Evaldi, in terms of like a number one. I mean, he's pitched like number
Yeah,
one
but
time and
Evaldi, I mean, if you look at his stuff as a baseball person and watch his repertoire of pitches,
yeah,
he's the real deal, the guy. I mean, he throws extremely hard. His movement is
yeah.
off the charts. I mean, he knows how to
Evaldi,
pitch. I mean, everything's there.
yeah. For him, I think it's always been one of those, like, he'll have three great games and then he'll have five bombs, and then he'll,
Mhm.
so he's never been like that consistent guy. But
Consistent. Yeah.
this year, he is what it is he's doing a great job. But then you have these teams like, like San Diego struggling. Like, it's like, wow, like that team is stacked. And by the way, I don't hear anything about Juan Soto anymore. Like, it's interesting,
Yeah.
like,
Well, I think he got a lot of because it was kind of obvious the Nationals were going to have to make a move with him. So I think that that's what brought him a lot of attention, and the fact that now he's kind of settled into San Diego at this to this point, which obviously that can change based on his contract, but and the fact that San Diego isn't tearing it up and he hasn't, well, he's been good. I don't think he's been great. So, all those things together. Now, if San Diego gets on a hot streak or whatever, which obviously they're extremely capable of doing with
without
all
question.
the talent they have. But, you know, again, we talk about this and we've talked about this before. Like the Rays have the special sauce. They know how to, they've whatever, AJ Preller, who's a good dude in San Diego, who's, really put together obviously a huge amount of talent. Sometimes, it takes some time for that talent to mesh together. I would bet that's what's going to happen with San Diego, and they'll improve as the year goes on. But you know, um, sometimes it doesn't mesh together. So we'll see what happens. But I think AJ's done a great job. Obviously, he spent money, and you got to give props to the owners for going and doing it, because San Diego hasn't traditionally been an organization that has done so. But they're giving him the opportunity. He's going out and spending money on a lot of talented players. So we'll see how they gel as the season goes on. Hopefully for the fans in San Diego.
For sure, for sure. I mean, listen, Philly last year was horrible the first half, right?
Yep. Yep.
Uh, and to your point, they have a stacked team.
Yep.
I think it's just a matter of time where they're gonna, gel and become that juggernaut.
Look, it's a long
A
season.
long season.
That's one thing. They've changing the game a lot, but it's still 162 game season, and that's a long time. And we're only at the back end of May, so we're only at like a third of the way through. So there's a lot of baseball to be played, and a lot of things going to happen. And I can assure you, the standings and the stats that we see today are not all going to be the same by the time we get to September and October and get to the playoffs.
Without question, without question. But with that said, it's been a good couple of months of baseball. We've got a lot of nice stories, and we'll continue to see them and hear about them as the season progresses.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I think with that said, let's wrap this show up. As always, my man Chris, you never disappoint.
Well, great job, Lou. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you guys again real soon.